What's up YouTube? It's Samara and you are back at the channel where you get Samara That World. Also, just want to say before I start this video that if you guys hate my background, I'm sorry. I don't got any fancy lights like other YouTubers, so just kind of trying to work with what I got, and this is where I have good lighting. But hopefully my content is good enough to stick around. So, and also, as always, you guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Okay, so we are going to talk about overcoming the fear of solo travel, specifically as a woman, a female. I had someone on my Instagram ask me this question and I thought it was a great question. I thought, well, if she has it, probably other people have it too. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys my tips on how to overcome the fear of solo travel. I traveled for 9 months this past year. It was supposed to be a year, but I had a family emergency that brought me back for about 3 months of that year. But yeah, I did travel a lot on my own. So these are my 6 tips on overcoming the fear of solo travel. I'll use some of my own personal experiences, but hopefully this helps you guys overcome your fear of solo travel. So number 1, my first recommendation is to pick a safe country for your first solo travel trip. And the reason why I'm saying this is because that was actually what I did for my first solo travel trip. I picked a country that I knew was safe, which was South Korea. I mean, I was already living there studying abroad, but my first solo travel trip was to Jeju Island, which is an island off the coast of South Korea. And South Korea is known to be very safe, so I knew that if I went and traveled there, that there wouldn't be a high possibility of something bad happening. So I think for your first solo travel trip, it's a good idea to pick a country that you know is safe. Check out the safety ratings because it's just gonna give you more peace of mind. You don't have to worry about safety. Like, there's already so many things you have to worry about when you're traveling alone. To have to also worry about safety, I think is just too much to handle for your first time. So, you know, obviously you always have to worry about safety to some extent, but some places are definitely more unsafe than others. So yeah, for your first solo travel trip, just pick a safe country so, you know, that way you can just focus on that, get your bearings, and then you can, you know, try some other countries that maybe are deemed more unsafe. And that actually brings me to my next tip is don't listen to the media, because a lot of the media makes it seem like certain countries are way more unsafe than they actually are. It's funny because my first solo travel trip was to one of the safest places in the world, you know, South Korea. And then my second solo travel trip was to one of the most dangerous cities in the world, Cape Town. And I am still here to tell the tale. So is that to say that Cape Town isn't unsafe? No, it definitely is unsafe. There are things you really need to take into account when you're traveling there. Probably more safety precautions than normal. But once again, the media is always gonna make things way worse or make it seem way worse than it actually is. You know, there's actually a saying in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. So you're really getting all of the worst stories on the news. You don't hear about all of the female solo travelers that had amazing times and that, you know, nothing bad ever happened to. Actually, when I was in Southeast Asia, I met a lot of female solo travelers that were even younger than me. And I'm talking like 18 years old that were just out and about traveling on their own, and then they made it back home safe. So obviously, bad things don't always happen as a female solo traveler. You know, if I listened to the media, then I definitely wouldn't have even gone to Thailand, because I recently read about a woman who had died in a Chiang Mai guest house, you know? So if I had listened to that before I left, I wouldn't have gone to Thailand and gone to Chiang Mai. I ended up going to Chiang Mai, had a great time, didn't have any issues in the hostels, and I know plenty of other female solo travelers who did the same. So, you know, I don't think that happens as often as the media makes it seem. Is that to say that if you go solo travel that nothing bad is gonna happen? No, but I also can't guarantee you that if you get in your car on the way to work that you won't get into an accident. Bad things can happen at any point in time, and I don't particularly like to live my life in fear of all of the bad things that could possibly happen. And actually, I used to be like that, and I still to some extent have a lot of fear in certain regards. Like, one thing I'm really afraid of is heights, but I'm always trying to combat, you know, that fear in my head. Because at the end of the day, I don't have control over when my time is. I just want to live the best life I possibly can live for the time that I am here on Earth. So yeah, you know, that's just my advice on that. Don't listen to the media because it's just gonna freak you out more. So tip number 3 is to know general safety tips. I am going to make my next video about general safety tips you can follow as a female solo traveler. But aside from that, you want to be aware of what the safety tips are for that particular country, because some countries are significantly more unsafe than others, and some countries are extremely safe. When I was in South Korea, like I said, I was studying abroad there. I actually would walk around alone at night at 2, 3, 4 in the morning after I was, out at night, and I never had any problems walking home alone at night. It was totally normal. It wasn't anything that was weird there. I mean, plenty of people did it, and yeah, I was fine. So yeah, I would even recommend talking to locals, to be honest, because that's kind of what I did. When I was in Berlin, I actually met locals and I asked them, because I wanted to go to some different clubs, is it possible for me to walk around alone at night, or is that super unsafe here? What's the deal? They had told me that if I wanted to go out at night, that plenty of their female friends would walk around alone at night when going to different, clubs and bars. So it's really, once again, not as uncommon there. But don't quote me on that. Talk to some other locals if you're going to Berlin, but that's what my friends had told me, and I was fine. On the other hand, if we're looking at Cape Town, South Africa, that's way more dangerous than Berlin, so you definitely shouldn't be walking around alone at night in Cape Town, South Africa. I would even be cautious about walking around alone during the day. So yeah, like I said, research the place that you're going and what the safety tips are for that area. But if you just want some general safety tips that I recommend, I will post that in my next video. Number 4 is that I really cannot stress this enough. As a female solo traveler, you should definitely take self-defense classes. Even if it's not something that naturally interests you, I highly recommend it. Really, I can't recommend it enough, because you just don't know if you're ever going to be in a situation where you need that self-defense, and I really pray that none of you ever have to be in that kind of situation. But for me, I actually took jiu-jitsu classes about 3 months before I left, and I regretted waiting so long to take them. I wish I would have taken them earlier, because even though I actually did learn quite a bit, I started getting better by 3 months, and I was like, wow, if I was in here, if I'd stuck with this for a year, I'd be way better, even better than I was after 3 months. And I actually ended up having to use my jiu-jitsu at some point during my travels, but that's a story for another time. I'm sure you guys are really interested to hear about that. I will post about that in the future as well. But yeah, take self-defense classes. I just can't stress that enough. If you guys don't have the money for it, there's also YouTube videos out now where you can look up self-defense, find a partner, see if they can work with you on that. But honestly, I don't think that there's anything that's gonna replace in-person interaction with a coach. If you can somehow find a way to afford it, once again, I highly recommend it, especially if you're gonna be traveling alone a lot. It's invaluable, really, it's invaluable information. So, number 5 is that there's the idea that you're going to be alone, but honestly, I was hardly ever alone. Unless I wanted to be alone, I wasn't alone. I was making friends left and right where I went, and to do that, you should really stay in hostels, because hostels is a really great way to meet other travelers that are backpacking, that typically are pretty open to meeting other travelers. You'll meet other solo travelers, so it's very easy to connect with people. They're also looking for people to hang out with. I've done that a lot, met other solo travelers, and then we just went off and did a bunch of things together, even though we had just met that day. And so yeah, I think hostels is a great way to do that. If you're someone who doesn't want to stay in a hostel and you're staying in a hotel, then still put yourself out there. You don't know. I mean, there might be people that you can meet. Usually when people are traveling, they're in a good mood, they're in a different vibe, they're willing to meet new people and have a good time. So, talk to people at the pool, at the bar, wherever you can find them, talk to people, because you don't have to be alone if you put yourself out there. And aside from that, I would say talk to the locals as well. There's been plenty of times I made friends with locals, and that's actually like the best thing ever, because they tell you where all the best spots are, they show you around. I actually met some locals in Cape Town. I just made friends with bartenders. I made friends with 2 bartenders, and one of them was a bartender at my hostel, and he actually brought me with his friend to a bar club thing that I had never been to, and there's typically a cover, and he got us in for free because he knew the bouncer. So that's a perk I wouldn't get if I hadn't have met him. And I also met some locals in Japan, also in a club. Clearly I meet people in clubs pretty frequently, but yeah, so met them. They were cool. I also, they were working at a sushi restaurant. They invited me to their sushi restaurant, and I got some free sushi. So yeah, hanging out with locals is cool. They show you the best spots. Like I said, they're gonna be able to provide you with certain experiences that a tourist can't provide you. And then also, you know, just how do you do that? Just strike up conversations, like I said, with people like anywhere, restaurants, bars, the grocery store. You can find people everywhere, right? You just got to put yourself out there. And I think that when you're traveling alone, you are going to be more creative with the way that you reach out to people, because your mind will just start finding ways to talk to people, because you're like, oh, I'm alone. I need to figure it out, because if not, I'm just going to be alone for the next 2 weeks. So yeah, you'll probably become a lot more extroverted and outgoing through this experience. But I will say that if you guys want some tips on how to start conversations and keep those going, I will eventually post a video on that as well. I used to run seminars, little mini seminars on how to overcome social anxiety. So, you know, a lot of that was teaching people how to converse with people. So yeah, I'll put that up later as well, so you guys can stay tuned for that. Once again, subscribe so you can stay up to date with that if that's something that interests you. And then last but not least, number 6 is just, you know, be okay with being alone. If worse comes to worse and you can't make any friends, then, you know, there's nothing wrong with being alone. Some of the most fun times I had was being alone. That's the funny thing, is that in the beginning it was very scary, but I think now it's become so normal for me to be alone that it's not even weird. I've actually been to clubs alone, and most people, you know, they go to clubs with their friends, so that's probably weird to most people, but for me it's actually been very liberating, because now I can just go and do whatever whenever I want. So yeah, I've been to clubs alone, and one of the best times I ever went to a club alone was in Berlin. I actually was there, and I just was, you know, pumped up. I was dancing, because I'm there to dance, you guys. I'm there to dance. I want to listen to music, I want to dance. So I'm there, and I'm pumped up, and I'm like, woo, you know, and so then all of a sudden this guy comes up to me, and then he starts dancing with me, because he's also alone, and he's also like, woo, kind of, he's all like, oh, I'm gay, but I love you, girl, and I'm like, yeah. So then we're all like pumped up, and we're pumping up the entire club at this point, because we're like so pumped up. And afterwards, the DJ comes up to me and is like, hey, thank you so much for that. You looked like you were having so much fun. That really made me feel really good, because it made me feel like you really were enjoying my music, you know, and that was, once again, me being alone. So I had a great time at a club in Berlin on my own. So yeah, you guys, the fear of being alone is a fear, right? But in order to overcome fear, you need to face it. And I honestly believe the more that you solo travel, you will grow as a person, and you'll grow in your independence. You just won't feel like you need people to do things as much, you know? And that's actually why I went to travel alone, is because I knew that if I waited around for other people to travel with, that it may never happen. You know, I had to do it, because I wasn't gonna wait for a friend to go travel the world with me for a year, or even a significant other. Like, who knows how long that would have taken to find someone who would have been willing to do that and in the same financial position. So yeah, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with being alone. I think you can look at it as an opportunity to grow, and you will become significantly more independent by doing this. You know, it happened for me, and you'll have to deal with those feelings of being alone, but ultimately that's going to be in your best interest, because when you're alone, you're going to have to, you know, think about how to be happy amidst the being alone. Being alone doesn't mean that you have to be lonely. You're about to go travel. You're gonna have a great time. You know, part of traveling is experiencing new experiences, you know, eating great food, seeing new sights. That in itself is so exciting that although, yes, it's great to experience that with someone else, it's not like it's going to be less enjoyable because you're alone. You're still going to enjoy those things. And once again, you'll learn something about yourself, you'll grow as a person, and you'll become more independent. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Anyways, I hope those 6 tips helped you guys. And once again, if you want more videos like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And once again, have a great day or night wherever you guys are. Bye.